What is a book worth? Think about it. Typically, things are valued not so much by their usefulness, but by the laws of supply and demand.
If something's in short supply, or if many people want it, then its value will be higher. Why are gold and diamonds, which have no real use to us, prized more highly than a vital substance like water or air? Because gold and diamonds are rare and desirable, and water and air are relatively abundant. A book, once written, can theoretically be reproduced infinitely at minimal cost. With the advent of digital books and e-readers, this is even more true. So, how can we decide what value to attach to these items, or should we even be valuing them at all? There was a time when books were so precious that a whole town might invest in a single copy, or when people would travel for days or even weeks just to be able to read one. Meticulously copied out by hand, there was really only one group of people with enough time on their hands to do this. That's right, it's our monks again. Those who we saw murdered, enslaved, and robbed when we learned about the early Viking raids on Britain. Those who we saw painted as disgraceful drunkards when we learned about the European Reformation and Henry VIII. For hundreds and hundreds of years, they were the only ones who were able to read and write, because they were the only ones who weren't busy building stuff, tending to the land, or waging war. Do you remember Martin Luther and his 95 Thesis? Was he really the first person in the entire history of Western Christianity to have questioned the Church's authority? The answer is no. In fact, there were many before him who had done so. But Luther's revolution took hold and spread because he had a secret weapon that others before him had lacked. He had the means to spread information. He had the printing press. While in Asia there is evidence that mechanical printing was being used as far back as the 8th century, the first European to use the technique was Johannes Gutenberg, whose 1440 movable printing press revolutionized publishing. Gutenberg's timing was just right. His invention came at the beginning of an intellectual revolution which historians have come to call the Renaissance. Over 1,000 years before, the foundations of scientific thought and philosophy had been laid by great thinkers of Greece, Rome, and the Middle East. But relatively little progress had been made beyond this in subsequent centuries. Literally meaning rebirth, Renaissance thinkers took a renewed interest in these, seeking to understand and even surpass them in this era of big ideas, burgeoning technology, and increasing global interaction. Where previously a single page of text could take days to complete, Gutenberg's machine could produce over 3,500 pages of text in a single day. This is quite astonishing when you imagine it.
Gutenberg's press was so ahead of its time, there weren't even enough literate people around to read all the books that it was able to print.
To run his machine, Gutenberg had to borrow money from a local businessman, Johann Fust. Fust promptly stole the idea for himself and became fabulously rich and influential during his lifetime. Meanwhile, Gutenberg died in relative poverty and obscurity. By the turn of the 16th century, more and more people were able to read as printed books spread ideas and knowledge across Europe and the world. Just imagine, for hundreds of years, a single source of authority had controlled all knowledge in the Western world, and then suddenly a single idea can be spread to thousands of people across vast distances in a matter of days or weeks. It must have felt at once exhilarating and terrifying to read for the first time the thoughts of strangers reaching across the great expanses of time and space, and to find their ideas resonating with our own. As Britain set about building a global empire over the coming centuries, it was quickly realized that reading and literacy were key to maintaining dominance and stability. The state began to develop public education, as well as free public libraries to promote literacy among the population. Later, writers such as Charles Dickens would achieve enormous celebrity status. Dickens travelled around the world and was met by crazed fans wherever he went. His stories and characters continue to be considered by many to define key aspects of British identity and life. By 1800, 50% of people in Britain could read, and over the next 100 years that number grew to 97. In 1973, when Britain introduced a tax on all sales in the UK, it was decided that that tax would not be charged on books, and this continues to be the case today. The UK book industry is currently estimated to be worth £1.6 billion, but most of this is taken up by a small number of very large retailers. The biggest and most famous of these is Waterstones. When they were founded in 1982, Waterstones were very different from other booksellers at the time. The stores were often located in beautiful buildings. They had cafes and music in the shops, and the books themselves were often offered at a strong discount or with special multi-buy offers. The company struggled to compete with internet retailers, however, and by 2010, it looked as though the company was going to fail. Interestingly, however, as e-retailers and e-books have continued to grow, Amazon may currently have as much as 59% of the UK book market, Waterstones have managed to survive and thrive by modelling themselves more on traditional booksellers. This remarkable achievement is often credited to the company's current CEO, James Daunt. When Daunt took over the running of Waterstones, he already owned a small chain of independent booksellers, Daunt Books. Renowned for stocking a wide range of titles, as well as for their highly knowledgeable staff, Daunt's philosophy is that a book is a thing to be prized and valued, not just bought on a whim or as a special offer. He's now one of the most important figures in the book industry. Not only is he CEO of Waterstones, but also of the biggest US book retailer, Barnes & Noble. He still owns his original business of Daunt Books, however, with just 9 small shops in the south of England. So it's a beautiful day, and I'm on my way to Saffron Walden, which is a historic market town in the county of Essex, in the east of England, and it's home to a renowned bookshop called Hart's Books. Now, Hart's Books is one of the Daunt Books chains, so I'm excited to see how traditional booksellers like this are doing things differently from the commercial high street booksellers that have become increasingly popular in recent years.
So at first glance, it's very similar here to commercial high street booksellers that you might see in any high street. It's very light, there's nice light coming in on the books, there's tables with books on display. The books are arranged by subject, just like in any other bookshop. But I think you can see some differences which tell a lot about their approach to selling books here. So there's no music you can hear. There's also no cafe. If we look at all the books that are available, none of them are on special offer, none of them are on sales. They sell wrapping paper, but there's no cards, there's no pens, there's no stationery, and they're not selling any of those extras. The other thing that's interesting is when you look at the checkout, there's no queue at the checkout. In a lot of the larger booksellers, you'll find that there's a lot of people waiting in line. They get people through, they sell a lot. But here, I think the booksellers have the chance and the time to talk to the customers a bit more, maybe give recommendations or to talk about the books that they're selling. I think that's another reason for the popularity of a bookshop like this. The company is also committed to promoting writing among young people, amateur and professional writers as well. So they have these events where writers come in, for example, and give talks or do book signings. They also run an annual writing competition for young writers, and those who are selected get put into a book. This is last year's book here, and they sell them here in the bookstores, or they sell them online as well. It's a really, really good opportunity for people who are interested in writing to get their work seen, and to really encourage young writers to keep on going and to develop their craft.